Welcome to the Alley Captain Conference and the Snow Summit. This is our second annual. Last year was our first Alley Captain Conference and Snow Summit, and it was a wonderful success, and people said, you got to do this again, and we're excited to be back here. My name's Lisa Hebert. I am the Communications and Public Services Manager of St. Paul Public Works, and I will be your moderator for the Alley Captain panel. And just a few housekeeping items, so please feel free, get up, get another cup of coffee, get some treats, some water. The bathrooms are right outside this door, both men's and women's. If you need to, again, stand up, stretch, move about, that is perfectly fine with us. And then this is going to be a great opportunity. We'll be talking to some alley captains, and this is really for you to get to know one another and talk about the important role you have. So I just wanted to say, first and foremost, thank you from the City of St. Paul, and certainly in Public Works and DSI and the police and everybody else. Your role as alley captains or prospective alley captains, if you're thinking about how do you do this and why should you be doing this, we really appreciate the work that you do for your neighbors and your neighborhood. We know that this is not an easy role to be an alley captain, and sometimes a thankless position. And last year we kind of heard it's a little bit lonely sometimes. And so we're hoping that you can make the connections here with one another and get some tips, get some tricks, get some ideas of how you can, increase participation in your neighborhood or, get it started. Because as you know, the City of St. Paul, we do not plow alleys. We never have, and that is not on the docket anytime soon as well. So again, your role is really critical to work with us. I want to take a moment to also kind of acknowledge and introduce people in the room with the City of St. Paul. So they're a little bit behind you here. So first I want to introduce Director Angie Weezy of the Department of Safety and Inspections. And she will be up. The next panel after this is Ask the City, so you can ask us all the questions you want. She'll be a panelist for that. We also have Commander Jeremy Ellison with the St. Paul Police Department right there. And we also have Noel Nix. He is our Director of Community Initiatives with the Mayor's Office. And next to him we have Mark Zoller, and he is our Accessibility Coordinator with HERO, or Human Rights and Equal Economic Opportunity. We just call it HERO in the city, so I always get that wrong, but our Accessibility Coordinator. We also have with us really other important people. We have Nick Crudo, who is our Supervisor 3 with our Public Works Department. So he is the one kind of behind the scenes doing routes, and I mean, for me, as a communications person, he's my Batman Commissioner Gordon kind of thing going on during the winter, and lots and lots of conversations. And next to him is Supervisor 2, and that's Brad Fessler. So again, we've got a lot of people here, and in the next session, again, ask all those burning questions that you have, anything about the city related to snow or not. So with that, I want to get it started with our Alley Captain Conference, and with the stars of the show is our alley captains. So I'm going to start by having them take a quick moment, introduce themselves, and who you are, kind of where you live, and how long you've been an alley captain, and then we'll get into it. So why don't we start on the end with Jana?
Sure. My name's Jana Steidel, and let me see, what's the name? I already forgot. My neighborhood, I'm in the Payne-Phelan neighborhood, which is a pretty big neighborhood, but just on Wheelock and Payne, that intersection. I have been doing the alley captain thing at least 12 years. I think you asked me this, Lisa, and I couldn't quite remember, but it's been at least 12 years that I've been organizing snow plowing for our alley.
My name is Mary Jo Schock, and I actually live in the Highland Park area, and I've been an alley captain for at least 16 years.
My name is Michael Erb. I also live in Highland Park, and turns out just a block or so from my colleague
That was not
here.
planned.
No. And I've been alley captain for about 19 years. When we moved in, it was the neighbor. Welcome to the neighborhood. Would you like to collect the alley? Which I did, and have been doing ever since. So.
Wow. Sorry.
Let me guess, you lived in the house the last alley captain. You moved into the house.
No,
of
I
the
didn't.
last
No,
alley captain.
they befriended me and then asked me. So, which I was happy to do, though, for sure.
So my quick math, and I'm a letters gal, not necessarily numbers gal, but I think we have about 50 years of experience of alley captaining up here on the panel. So again, thanks for that. And actually, I want to point out that Michael is sporting the alley captain hats. So if you haven't picked one up already, as our thank you and a gift for you, we have hats, little beanies, and then ice scrapers for all of the alley captains and everybody coming today. So if you haven't gotten one, make sure you connect with me afterwards. With that, I will first throw it out to the audience, to all of you, if you have any questions that you want to ask any of our alley captains.
Before we even get started on that, I would like to just maybe have us share how, I know it's on the questions, how do we get people to pay? Which can be a challenge. Well, actually, I do. I just wanted to pass, I send out a flyer every year. And what I illegally put these in people's mailboxes. I know that. In fact, I have the little kids next door do it, so it looks like a kid is doing it, so it doesn't look like an adult is doing it, so I can't get as much trouble. And I send out a flyer saying how much it's going to be, and this also includes, for me, the light in the alley that gets paid through XL Energy. And then I kind of con them a little bit into saying we're having a neighborhood gathering, so that the people that don't pay, it's a little bit of an incentive to get them to come and drop off their check. Also, our neighborhood has gotten organized enough that if people don't pay, we have an email list that people are willing to share, which has come in handy a couple of times when there's been something going on in the alley, especially when there's been some robberies and some break-ins or something. It's an easy way to communicate. We also do this on Eleanor. And then I send attached to it is the flyer as to when the date of the get-together is. And then usually a week before, I send a little email out to say, just a reminder, there's a gathering, and it's kind of like hint, hint, if you didn't pay your money, bring it. And actually, it's not a bad way. I usually get a pretty good response. There's always a few stragglers. And I've been doing it a long time, so they know that it's coming. I start this process in August. First of all, I try to contact the person that we've had the previous year to plow and figure out how much it is. Recently, I lost the person retired that plowed the alley, and it took me a long time to find somebody. So within a reasonable, I mean, some of them were a little more pricey than others, but it did some research. I spent a lot of time making phone calls and doing everything. A lot of it, you got to get the people that are in the neighborhood who don't want to, and I understand it. Snowplow people do not want to go all over town just to do an alley. I mean, so my recommendation always is start early. I always start in August, find out what they're going to charge, and then I sit and figure it out, and then I kind of send flyers out in September, so they get the hint that they need to pay. And the ones that don't pay, usually a neighbor picks up some of it, or I catch them in the alley when they're walking their dog or whatever and say, hey, I didn't get your money. And then they're usually pretty good. I don't want to mob like this. Go ahead.
A couple questions. So you have commercial landlords? Do you have? Oh, okay. Do you have commercial entities that you're trying to collect from? People owning properties, or apartment buildings, and so forth, or is it mostly
No,
residential?
I don't.
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Yeah, Janet, do you want to talk a little bit about your process and
Yeah.
and then we'll Michael.
Yeah,
I think that's a good way to start.
So there's a lot of similarities. I start looking in August as well. I start the process, and we actually in our we have a really close-knit neighborhood. So we have a little group chat with all the alley captains in our neighborhood. So which is good. It's like half therapy session, half sarcastic memes, and half sharing resources. Or I guess that's a third. But we also had a long time person who plowed for years and years and years, and he was gone. He retired several years ago. So we'd had the same same challenges, and then just trying to find new providers, and no one really measured up to the guy who done it for like 30 years. So I look, starting in August, start kind of farming out, and it is tough to find people. A lot of providers don't want to do alleys for various different reasons. And yeah, you kind of have to have a network. And so that's the other thing I would suggest too, is if you know other alley captains in your neighborhood, meet up with them and collaborate. In the past years, one person that I found, I said, could we get a discount if I could convince these other 6, alleys to do it? And we kind of got a little bulk discount and stuff like that. But also, I think you kind of mentioned a little bit, Mary Jo, that way people, they might be more incentivized to come over to your neighborhood if they know they can just do a straight shot. So yeah, a similar process. Start in August. I handed out and delivered my letters. I will not disclose how I did them as far as how I disclose them, but I have a letter that details all the information about the parameters of the contract and how much I charge by occupied property. But when I say occupied, that means if I know it's a rental, I will find the landlord and make them pay. But otherwise, if it's just something that's on the market, they don't have to pay. For my commercial, I have a church on my corner that also owns the next house next door. And then I have 2 rental properties. And through the years, through various means and reasons, I know the people who own those properties, and I contact them directly and let them know what their share is. And they pay, because I'm relentless and friendly.
Lots of tenacity.
Yep.
Michael, do you want to talk about your
Yes.
timing process?
Yeah, so we have 24 houses on the block that face the alley, and then there's 2 that don't face the alley, but they have recycling and garbage access is needed. So as a sidebar here, I went in kind of preparation, I went to the city's website where they have the alley captain area. There was a lot of great information in there. And as I read some of the examples, like, oh, that's exactly the way I think. So I didn't know that. I mean, I knew those other alley captains, but I had no idea that everybody's doing kind of the same thing, right? So check out that website. It's pretty cool. So I start distributing the flyers usually about the time when I should have taken out my air conditioners, when it's too cold, and usually just after Thanksgiving, or not Thanksgiving, Halloween. So determined to start earlier each year, but I don't. So nevertheless, I pop in a note and with a quick explainer to those who may be new to the block that, as you may know, City of St. Paul does not plow alleys, and we combine our resources, et cetera, and then list the amount, which is now $650. The same person who retired a couple years ago was charged $410, so it was a little bit of a bump, but no one complained because everybody. The previous guy did such a great job, and after year one. Year one was last year, and there really wasn't any snow. So I'm sure he'll do great this year. So 24, I send it out, and I usually get between, there's like 2 people, and not the same 2 people, 2 houses that do not end up not paying, and I figure they may just forget or whatever. I don't send a reminder. Maybe I should. I do say that, it's $650 divided by 24, and then whatever that turns out to be, and then I round up a couple of dollars in case, and then I say, in case, for the 1 or 2 houses that don't pay. I'm not pointing fingers, but I just let them know that it's not a perfect deal. And then usually I'm not, and I pay up front, of course, and then the money trickles in over the months. It all seems to work out. I will say that last year when I put the Venmo,
that's a big deal.
Electronic way of paying rather than check or cash, which you need to either mail me or drop it by my house. The Venmo was brilliant because I had 2 people pay me before I went around the block. By the time I got home, 2 people have already paid me. So super easy. You need a Venmo. I mean, it's all easy if you have someone who knows it, they can easily set you up. That was the best thing that's happened the past couple of years. I've always been curious. We have one rental house and always new neighbors, one or two on the block. And then now we have a house construction. So I will go to the owner of the builder, and I've tried with varying degrees of success getting to the owner of the one rental house. But I've often wondered, other parts of the city have much more rentals, like how does that work out? So I don't know. We have it's a nice neighborhood and people cooperate, and I get 80% or so. Yeah, they don't always cooperate, but for the most part, they do. So I've not really lost any money. But I've always been curious about other neighborhoods that have lots of rentals, and how does that work?
I would like to add something just kind of, before I started doing this, one of the other neighbors had a really great way to collect money. What they would do was they would send out a notice like probably the middle of October, and then said, I will be around my children to trick or treat. Have your money ready. And he always got good results. I mean, trick or treating isn't quite as popular, whatever, but it always worked because people knew they were coming and had their checks ready or whatever. But I thought that was a good idea.
So can we go back just 1 second? So Michael, you said Venmo, and I've heard that from a lot of people that putting Venmo out there is quick and easy, and people can do it right on their phone, and so that's great. So can each of you kind of talk about what type of payment that you take, and then also can you talk, and Michael, you were talking a little bit about how you figure it out. So you said yours was $650 and you divide it by 24 and maybe bump it up a little bit for people who don't pay. Can you kind of tell us how you do that math? Because I think that's a struggle for people who do have people who don't pay, or getting a hold of the renters, or getting some of the commercial properties to chip in. So if you can kind of just share how, like, again, what money, how you accept payment, and how you kind of do your math on that. So.
Yeah, so it's the new price now is $650. So I just did the little math here. It's $650 divided by 24 houses is $27. And then I say, and I'm rounding up to 30 to cover the one or two people who don't pay. That's $30, and people pay $30. So I'm once in a while I get a tip. That helps cover it, but
tip your alley captains,
that's how
folks.
I just figured total transparency, and that's part of when I looked on the website and saw samples of other people's letter. They do the same thing. So, rounding up or explaining how they got that, and some go into more detail about what the expectation is and when they come out and plow, which I don't do, but maybe I'll do this year. But I thought that was interesting.
Great.
It's the Alley Captain
I will,
website.
I'll just jump in here with the Alley Captain website. So last year, we took a lot of the resources from our Alley Captains. There is a website, stpaul.gov/Alley Captains. You'll find videos on it from last year's Alley Captain Conference and some materials. That we'll also keep adding materials if people give them to us. So there's great resources like drafts of letters, lists, things like that, process of how people do things. And then again, we will add these videos from this year and more materials from this year as well. So we'll keep building that out. The one thing that I'm going to make a plug here, do ask that you do, is if you're an Alley Captain or thinking about being an Alley Captain, please sign up. We have only about 100 Alley Captains that have signed up, because we don't know what neighborhoods do or don't have alleys or Alley Captains as far as the city, and we do get calls and say, do I have an Alley Captain in my neighborhood? And before we could say, we don't know, and now we can at least look up, and so we can get people connected who are maybe either interested in doing this or helping out the Alley Captains. So please sign up if you haven't already as an Alley Captain or a prospective Alley Captain, and it will get you connected to everybody else here too. So stpaul.gov/Alley Captains. Okay, sorry, I'm going to jump to questions.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, actually, Jana, while I'm walking back there, why don't you give your breakdown?
Yeah, so I completely agree in the methods of payment, Michael. Like, make it easy for people to pay you. Like, it's not like a contest to make it really hard to pay you. So I use PayPal, Venmo. They can drop it off in cash or check at my house. I have a secured mailbox that locks me outside, so yeah, those are the 4 methods I use: cash, check, Venmo, PayPal. I usually get people Venmo me like right away. That seems to be possible. But if someone else, I also include my email and my phone number, and if someone contacts me and wants to pay me like through Zelle or whatever, that's fine. Like the goal is to not have to bear the burden myself. So that's the methods. As far as how I calculate it, I look at how many, as I mentioned, I used to buy occupied homes that access the alley, because we do have a corner house that no part of their property touches the alley, so they don't need it for emergency services or anything like that. And I look at either occupied homes, so if it's up for sale, or something like that, I don't do that. But otherwise, I contact the people, like I contact the owners of the property if it's a rental property, and I just divide it by the total, the total divided by the occupied homes. And we have, I think, 24 homes. 24 occupied properties, I say, because we have the church as well on the corner.
Do you mind sharing the average price or
Sure. So the people I have contract with this year, they charge $700. I've opted in to pay extra because they come back after the city plows do and clean out the snow berms. That's based off of years of experience of people wanting that and not wanting to be the one to go down with my snow blower and do it all the time. But I explain that in the letter, and the reason why I do that is like over the years, people asking, I just include that information in the letter. So I think it's like $46.50 or something between the number of occupied properties we have and the total. So with mine, it's $700 plus, I think, plus $400 to come back. So,
got it.
Yeah.
I had a couple people say something about, well, I don't use the alley. My garage is on the street, my house. However, my comeback to them is, you get your garbage picked up and you get your thing. So they go on to my list of, I have 28 people that I collect from. And I've heard from both alleys people, and I say, no, if something comes up, 911 would have to get through, your garbage gets collected, so suck it up.
Yeah. I am lucky I don't have that. There are some around me that have that, but everyone has everyone on my block, they use the alley. But I agree with that it's used for more than just you want to get your car in and out of your garage. It's emergency services for your neighbors and obviously garbage and
recycling collection.
Yep.
Great. Well, we have some bunch of questions, so we'll start right here.
Hi everybody, good morning. Jim Burnett and Diane Burnett from Highland Park again, more Highland Park people. Actually, it was a question for you, Lisa. In terms of publicising the information that you talked about the website, do you put any information in the old-fashioned things like the Highland Park newspaper, stuff like that?
Not in the newspaper, but we're trying to publicize a little bit more about the Alley Captains and the Alley Captain Conference and getting people connected. And we are working with the district councils and trying to, again, connect with them because they're an important important people and an important organization to connect with all of you and the residents and families and businesses in your neighborhoods as well. So yes, we're trying to do more of that, and we can do more. So let's definitely connect if you've got some ideas. Love to hear them. So, and had some questions over here.
So we're lucky that we have a neighbor's brother who's doing our alley right now. But sooner or later, since he's already retired, he's going to not want to do it. It would be really helpful if on your website you could put by neighborhoods who the different contractors are, so that when our guy decides not to do it anymore, I'm going to retire too.
So I'll take that one. It's a wonderful idea to put on there who's contracting with who, and again, trying to connect alley captains and kind of see if you can get a kind of a group discount. Unfortunately, that's not something we can do as a city. People who plow alleys, private plow contractors, are not licensed by the city, and they're not licensed by the state. I'm kind of looking over at Director Weezy on that one. So we can't put on there who is or who isn't doing it. And so, from competitive reasons, and again, it's not necessarily, a licensed thing that we can kind of share. So that's why it's, again, important that you all can share that as alley captains with each other, but that's not something we can put on the website and share that as the city.
Hey, Lisa?
Yeah.
Can I just add, The door, the dog tick, or a dog and the wood tick in the middle of the night, and a very large overreaction. Okay? So we have two things that I want to tell you from the Department of Human Rights. Everything the city buys goes through our department, where that we have the procurement team. So we do have something called the CERT vendor list, and you could certainly check that list and see if any plow drivers are listed. But we don't list. We also don't list because as government, we can't encourage anybody to use one vendor or preferential treatment. But again, the CERT list does exist for small businesses to get certified as legitimate businesses. So by all means, check that out.
Thanks, Beth. And I know that we had another question up here. And I think one of the big things that, just plugging as I'm walking up here, is making sure that they are bonded and insured to plow streets and alleys.
Thanks. Jim Marty, Miriam Park neighborhood. I have been alley captain for 26 years.
Whoa, thank you.
And a couple points. I mean, to the point about the providers, we desperately need a database of providers, because when we lose one, we're all on our own doing this search of who will do it. So if the city won't do it, then we need to self-organize a group to have a list and a database that we keep up. Regarding pricing, you all sound very egalitarian. Everybody's paying more or less the same. I'm kind of Marxist. The commercial properties pay more. The multifamily places pay more. And the rentals pay more, because those are business expenses for those people. It's not really that much of a sacrifice for any of them. So they pay more. And in terms of pricing, or in terms of setting price, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to mark it up. You have time invested in this. I have postage that I have to send out to commercial places. So, I mean, you every piece of paper up there had to be printed on your home printer, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, don't be shy about marking this up to cover your time and your valuable contribution.
That's a good point.
So, yeah, I mean, that is an approach, if I can, that is an approach. But these are, I mean, I've lived in the neighborhood 17 years, and these are my neighbors I have to live next door to. So,
At the same time, you can't go broke.
I completely agree. So there are a couple of things, like the commercial properties I have, they are not multifamily homes. They're houses that were previously owned by people that were bought by an LLC and now are rented out to single families, and a church, which is a nonprofit, but, so I guess, I mean, yes, that is an approach. I've chosen the approach I have just because I live next to my neighbors, we're very close-knit, and I usually do get, I mean, I always get, there's a couple neighbors that always kick in a little extra because they know there's that one house that doesn't always pay on time and stuff like that. I don't feel comfortable making money on it, but I do want to make sure I break even. But I mean, that's one thing to consider, is that these are people I see as I walk my dogs every day, and they're my friends and my neighbors, so,
They're all paying the base rate. It's the commercial properties and the absolute
Yeah. True, but I'm neither a business person and I have a full-time job I work 50 hours a week at, so I'm just kind of trying to get this
And I
done.
didn't want to get sticker shock from my neighbors.
Yeah.
Because it went up last year and it went up again this year. So it's kind of like, okay, every year I'm increasing it. Nobody has said anything, but it's kind of like, I really appreciate your point.
I do, yeah.
And I am going to think about that next time.
Yeah, I think that's just knowing that those options. I mentioned earlier that I went to the website and started reading other people's letters and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. I never thought of charging the people that don't have a garage access but have their trash can there, charge them half. It's like, oh, I never thought of that. So I appreciate that, because not every alley and neighborhood is the same.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
So taking all those considerations into helps us with new ideas. Like I said, I thought I'd solved the alley captain problems, and I read that everybody does the same thing. So
Well, and I kind of figure, and this is prejudiced, I'll say this up front, I live in a very nice neighborhood. And if these people cannot come up with the $25 that they're probably spending on something else, they do hear from me. It is. I've had a couple who have paid in March, realizing they didn't pay, and I've only had one major complaint, or it wasn't even a major complaint. With the alley plowing people we've had, it's been great. One lady complained she had an apron outside her garage that when the plow went through, snow went on her apron. And she didn't think that that was appropriate. And I said, well, you know, there's nothing that, where do you want to put where do you want them to put the snow? And I do not usually give out the snowplow company's name. I will usually, if they have a complaint, they talk to me and I talk to I had made that agreement with the last year when I contracted, and again this year, because they do not want to be inundated from all these customers calling. I said, I will screen the calls. If there's an issue, I will call.
I do that too, because like the contract is signed between myself
Yeah.
and the contractor, and I want them to plow our alley next year. And sometimes they're really weird, they're just weird complaints.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I take it. So like, I know, Lisa, you probably want to jump in with something, but
No, keep
one
going.
of the things is like, what's the job description? And it isn't just a broker of services. It's your neighborhood that you live in. This is my personal view of what I look at it. So I am, open to other viewpoints on it, but I am coordinating a service and trying to make sure everyone gets along and gets through the winter. So we're a community. So I kind of take it from that aspect. And, sometimes it's part therapist. Sometimes it's just listening to the airing of grievances and then kind of negotiating and helping explain, like, well, here's why the service providers are doing that. Everyone becomes an expert on how to plow an alley as soon as it snows. I mean, I grew
And
up
the
on a farm,
streets.
so and my uncle used to drive a snowplow. So I'm like, there's actually some things I can't do. But I mean, I don't see it as strictly like a brokerage between two. It is communities we live in. And so, and at least in my community, we're really close and tight knit. So I kind of see it as a conduit, and if I get sick of doing it, someone else will have to agree to do it. So I want to
Try finding someone else to do it.
I think you're both very brave. You're both very, very brave to not give out the provider's contact information for complaints, and you're taking over.
Well,
You should definitely pay yourself.
yeah. So I might hire you as my agent.
I think you
But I will say
got
that
a
it is-
negotiator right
It
here.
is very, very difficult. I have had a provider who wasn't doing a very good job, but just outright quit and refuse to do our alley the next year. And it is really difficult to find someone new. And the people that have to find someone new are the ones that are sitting up here.
Yep.
So, and we do it in addition to our day jobs, so you just got to maintain good relationships everywhere. So again, it's not just a broker of services, it's a community healer, organizer. I think you do really have to be civic-minded if you do this.
And I think you mentioned something really important that I think those of you who are alley captains know you're the one signing the contract with the
Yes.
private plow driver. So that's an important relationship and that's contractual. So again, how you manage it and having that discussion up front sounds like a really good idea. And
I had someone mistakenly be unhappy with who was, they live a few blocks away from me. They were unhappy about how their alley was plowed, so they called my alley plow guy, knowing who I was using, on their own, and left them a poor review. And it turns out that is not the person who was hired to do their alley. And think about how unfair that is for that
Yeah.
small business to get dinged and have this public, they live off of public ratings. And the guy called me and was like, I don't know who this person is. I'm not even contracted to do that alley. He didn't even know where he lived. When he figured out where he lived, he's like, I don't have a contract for that alley because he doesn't have a business contract with that person. So then I had to go smooth it over with all the other stuff. But I mean, that's another thing why I just say, just come to me and we'll figure it out together.
Great.
Yeah.
Mary Jo, you brought something up that I think that I want to kind of ask people and have a conversation about, coming from the city here and having some of our folks in the audience who drive our city plows. But when you talk to your contractors, your private contractors, where do you put the snow? Where do you tell them to put the snow?
Not in the street.
So if you can share a little bit about, do you have a conversation with them and other neighbors about where they need to put their snow?
It's really tricky because the snowplow goes right down my alley to the next alley. Okay, so there really is nowhere on this cross street to put anything. Okay, if things pile up after the snowplow has come through, my guys come back and clean that out. But the problem gets to be, my guys usually plow early, and then when the city plows come through the cross street, it's another mess and they come back. But initially, I can say they do plow onto the street.
Thank you for being honest on that. Not the answer we love to hear, but we'll talk more. Michael?
Yeah, I have never discussed where to put the snow.
Hadn't even
That's
crossed
what
my
he
mind.
does, so he just, pardon me?
I said, hadn't even crossed my mind.
Yeah, they just come down the alley and there's, goes on people's driveways or whatever's apron, and then everybody takes care of that themselves. So I've never thought about it. I did have a little bit more direction when we changed vendors from his perspective about, he came out and he looked at the alley and he thought it was too narrow and he wasn't sure where the snow would go, and so he was declining. And then I called him back and we kind of negotiated that we'd have a 1-year test to see how it went, and it didn't snow much, but we must have passed the test because I got the letter for this year. So that's it. I don't say, hey, complaints in my letter. I don't say, contact me for complaints. And I don't share who it is, and I've never gotten a complaint in all the years. So
I'm going to put my colleagues on the spot here in the back. Oh.
Just related to that.
Okay, sorry.
I mean, my first thought is, it's their business, right? Is the alley captain really supposed to be negotiating that? Or as a snowplow person, aren't they responsible to figure that out? And then what is it that the city wants?
Yeah, so again, it's working it out with your private plow contractor, but I just want to raise this for awareness of where you put the snow is important. And it's something we would like to have conversations with your plow contractors. A lot of them do a nice job. A lot of them know where to put the snow. I'm going to put my colleagues on the spot here, and they can tell you where they would like the snow when they're plowing. But so a lot of the plow contractors in the city do a nice job of making sure that the snow is where it's supposed to be and not pushing it into the street, because then it just becomes a battle back and forth between the city and the plow contractor. And those rows of snow, they're called windrows, and those can get really icy and things like that. So I'm going to walk back here to Nick here, and if you want to just kind of tell people where you would like the snow and why.
I would like it in Iowa. I guess before I begin, one, you guys are all community-minded. You're all here, so you probably know about this, but National Night Out is a great event. It's early August. If you contact, go through the city websites and whatnot, we deliver barricades for free, but it's a great community event. And if you do charge more, maybe that's your opportunity to buy pizzas, get more community members there, and then get, the actual funds that you need throughout the course of the year, and just keep that going, nice cycle with that. So if you haven't done that, get involved with that event. It's early August, like you guys were saying, August, perfect time. You get the whole community there. We get pizza, we get the next neighbors, and like I said, continue on. With regards to snow plowing, it's called plowing, it's not called removing, right? So the snow unfortunately has to go somewhere. We get hundreds, Lisa gets hundreds of calls about us blocking driveways and sidewalks and all that kind of stuff. Please understand that my crews do not intend to do that at all, but the snow has to go somewhere, and we get involved in a lot of battles between blocking driveways and then the snow plows coming, or the snow blowers coming out and blowing it back into the street. We understand we're clearing a 20-foot on average street, and then we're putting it on a 6-foot boulevard, so it gets higher and whatnot. So the best you can do is just get it as close to the curb on your property. It's kind of frustrating. I don't know why people don't kind of blow it back into the main part of their yard instead of on the boulevard, but off the street just preferably. And then, with regards to the alley guys, they probably have a V-plow, so 50% goes to one side and 50% goes
Yeah.
to the other side.
We have angled blades, like, because I've gotten complaints from neighbors of too much snow is going on their side of the, but
Yeah, it gets a little tricky to get it into the boulevard, but that's really where we want to see the
The
snow.
alleys don't have boulevards.
Well, the boulevard on the sides. So when it's kind of so when you come out and then you've got the boulevard on the side,
Yep.
it gets tricky. And again, we're all fighting for snow space. So one of the things that is actually fairly easy that would be actually helpful to, I think, the private plow folks as well as our drivers is that when people are shoveling their sidewalks or blowing the snow, if they can blow their snow into their yards and not into the boulevard, that leaves a little bit of extra space for private plow contractors as well as the city to move
Yeah.
the snow there.
at least on our alley, we don't have any sidewalks at the end of our alley. Well, we do on Payne, but though we have the church that does a really nice job of keeping that clear. But yeah, thankfully last year was a reprieve, but it's always, where do we put the snow? And everyone's frustrated. And
Yeah.
I know at least in the past years, different companies, that if we wanted to have it actually removed, not just plowed, we have to pay extra. And at some point, it's too much for private citizens to have to pay for.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, snow removal is very costly for
Yeah,
everyone. And then
and-
finding a place for them
Well,
to store it and dump it.
I know you're from the city, but trust me, I hear plenty from all my residents of, why doesn't the city do this? Why do I have to pay for this? Why da, da, da? So there's just to maintain goodwill and my own, standing in the neighborhood. There's only so much I can ask for, so.
Well, and that's a really good question. If you want to stay for the Ask the City panel question afterwards, we can get into more of that as well. Any other questions right now? Okay, all right. Come over here. All right. Here you go.
In my neighborhood, there's a number of different backgrounds. I don't think English is the first language for
Yep.
a number of people in my neighborhood. Is that the case for anyone else, or any recommendations on best practices in that sort of neighborhood?
Yeah.
Great question.
I don't know if you
No,
guys
I don't. I don't have that issue.
Okay.
I have some who move in and don't understand why it's not being plowed,
Yeah.
and why they have to pay. But
Yeah.
once they get the point, I'm done. But
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of.
Yep.
Go ahead.
We have a few ESL families in our neighborhood, and I usually talk to their children, which probably is a little unfair that they have to take on so much of interpreting all of this stuff and managing all this stuff as kids. But, and there's, they live a few houses down from me, and the immediate next door neighbor knows them a little bit better, so sometimes she'll talk to them for me. And it's kind of funny because for a few years they didn't pay, I think just because they didn't understand. And then last year they came to my door with like way more money than they owed. And because they understood oh, we finally understood what this random letter was and what you wanted from us. And now it's like, it's worked out. So I think part of it is kind of working around, trying to work with neighbors that might have a relationship with them, talking to their teenage children a little bit and trying to help them understand.
I'm gonna.
City of St. Paul have multilingual information?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, if you get us some standard language,
Y-
we can get it translated for you.
Yeah. So my boss is in the back, and I'm stepping in here to say yes. This is an area where I think the city can help out with that, and working with captains to get some standard basic language translated into the language, the languages that you need in your neighborhood. We can help with that. So let us work with you on that. We're not going to be able to translate everybody's letter and everybody's material, but we can get some of the basic information, some standard language, and get that translated for folks. So you can put dates and prices and all that kind of stuff in.
Sure.
So we will take that on. And I saw another hand up here.
Earlier, you mentioned bonded and insured. We just have a guy.
Hey, if the guy does the job,
Well, if the guy does a job, but
cares?
Director Weezy, can I put you on the spot of why it might be important to have work with somebody, or Beth, of why it's important to maybe ask them if they're bonded and insured? Sometimes you got to go with who you've got, but I think that especially if you're going with a contractor, I think it's really important. Can I put you on the spot?
So, I mean, really, it's, I would say, mostly for property protection. So if you get a little wild down the alley and damage occurs, who's paying for that? And I imagine that most homeowners will say that they wanted the driver to pay for that, not themselves. The driver. So, but if they're not insured, who's paying for that?
Would it ever come back to that person, the captain?
The alley captain? No, but protecting or getting somebody who has insurance and who's bonded ensures that if there is damage, that it'll get repaired.
Yeah. So again, it's to protect if and when something could happen, that again they have the insurance and the bond to take care of that for any property damage.
I would like to add something real quickly here that I just noticed in a letter that I just reread. There have been a couple companies when I was looking for somebody that wanted to bill each customer or each household individually, and the price that they were asking, when I looked at it, I thought, whoa, this is a lot of money and I was not willing to give people's name, address, and information at a price they were asking. So just kind of be aware if you're looking for new people, what information they're asking for. Most the people that I've contacted usually will take one lump sum from one person. But a couple of people wanted to bill individually, and they were billing like $40. And then some of them wanted to bill each time there was a snowfall. So just kind of be cautious of, what they're asking for. And I never responded to them, but.
I think that's a good point, though, as a variety of, I haven't encountered that. Most providers I've ever contacted prefer to just deal with one person and have you hunt down the money to be reimbursed. Mm-hmm. But I do think it's interesting, you make an interesting point of, and this is why I explain it in my alley letter. I know, Michael, you were like, oh, it never occurred to me to do that. But I would get questions about, like, the terms of the contract. So, I get people that would maybe complain if there was, like, an inch of snow and someone didn't come through. So I try to, now in my letter, I explain it's 2 inches of snow, and they commit to doing it by this point in time. But every provider will be different as far as when they come through. I've had providers ask, and even if they don't, I ask my neighbors to make sure they move back all of their random crap that they want to have stowed by the edge of the alley so it can actually be plowed wide enough for everyone. But really looking through the conditions and the terms for each contract and each provider is totally different, and probably based off their own experience of what they know they can do and maybe where they've gotten burned before too, I would think so.
I do know that there are alley captains that do use that model and working through the private plow contractor to individually bill and collect from the properties, and it works for them. Yeah. But so again, there's not a one size fits all. Right. It's kind of what works for you and your neighbors. But I do know that there's alley captains using the services of the plow contractors to do that individual billing and collecting.
But that's part of the reason why I'm so transparent about what everything costs and who I'm using, so that people don't think I'm trying to, be shady or something, profiteer off of them or whatever. It's like, this is what it is. This is exactly how it breaks out. And I'd use a lot of language to make sure everyone pays their fair share as we all benefit from this service, and so,
I guess I just have people glad that somebody's doing it.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to do it.
I should say my neighbors are very grateful and they pay promptly. Last year when I was at this summit, I was I recognized how lucky I was that my neighbors in my alley are awesome and they pay promptly and everything.
And I think it takes a little bit of time to build the relationship and build Mary Jo, you've got that great list. I'm sure you all have the list, and that takes a little one another and that community building in your neighborhood as well. Is there any other questions? I want to make sure I'm getting everybody's questions. Okay, some more questions. All right, come in this way.
My wife's question, but I'll try and phrase it. In terms of the payment structure, sounds as though some people charge one flat rate for everybody. Some people divide it, which is what we do. So the people who've got garage access from the alley pay twice the amount that the people who don't have garage access pay. Yeah. So I'd be interested to know, perhaps a quick show of hands, how people structure their payments. Do you do one flat rate? I've also heard some people do simply make the people who've got garage access on the alley pay, and the people who don't have that don't pay anything at all.
Plus you've got utilities going on.
Yeah, for mine, all of my neighbors who have access to the alley, where their property borders the alley, that is how they access their garage. So I am grateful that I don't have quite that issue, but, again, if you want utility services, cable services, emergency services, garbage, it's a public space. So I guess I haven't had to try to figure what seems fair, as far as someone gets to get their car out of the garage and you only have to worry about having electricity fixed if it goes out. I don't know. But I think that for me personally, I would advocate everyone has to pay a flat rate.
There's a lot of reasons to make sure that access is cleared in your alley, other than just getting to your garage.
Yeah. You could benefit from firefighters stopping a fire on your property.
I'm just going to add this real quickly and go on. One of the things that is a problem in my alley, to be honest, is the garages don't have addresses on them. And I recommend anybody who is working with these people that they send a little reminder out. You really need an address on those garages. It's very difficult for fire to come down and not know exactly what house they're going to.
I will add that is actually city code.
I think that's a
You
law.
need to have that. So if you do not have that on your garages, I'm seeing all our folks here nodding their head. Please, please, please ask your neighbors to get the numbers on their garages. It is city code, and it is critically important for our emergency services, for, again, the utilities, for garbage and recycling, to know what property is what. So please, if you can help us out, remind your neighbors that that's actually code and extremely critical for emergency services and everything else. Mm-hmm. So, all right, another question.
So I just moved to my house in St. Paul in June, and no one on my alley has done this before.
Yeah.
And so
I'm so sorry.
So I'm trying to break the ice probably to my neighbors that who knows when the last time any concept like this has happened. I don't know what they were doing before. Nobody seems to know. And so any advice for trying to get these first interactions? Sounds like there's been talks of a letter or and I know there's resources online, but breaking the ice and building that first contact to make sure we have dialogue going forward.
Do you have a dog?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. Walk around with your dog. Just be friendly. Honestly, it's probably better if you're an extrovert. Knock on some doors, introduce your really cute dog. We have a neighborhood Facebook page that was started during the pandemic just as a means to stay in touch with each other. And it's great. Another alley captain that lives a block away posted something about, hey, everybody, alley captains are going to be contacting you. So it sounds like if you don't all know each other, that maybe isn't happening. But I honestly would just go start knocking on doors. And if you bring cute animals, sounds like kids also work.
Or babies.
People don't usually say no to, cute things that you bring. So
Do you have somebody licensed? Do you have somebody to do the alley yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say stop by the table downstairs, and I'll be there for a little bit. And a lot of us, we could probably help you with some ideas, but you just got to go door knock.
Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity to make sure that you're connecting with each other and getting some good advice from what everybody is doing and getting it started. And also, again, staying connected to the city and how we can try to support the work of what you're trying to do in your neighborhood and what everybody else is doing. Just looking at time, I think that was a really great question to kind of wrap this up a little bit. What is your advice if each of you can give some advice for people who are thinking about, how do I get started? How do I do this? Or your best tip or trick for somebody who's been doing this to think and consider. So what's your advice for current and prospective alley captains?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Our alley, our neighborhood and our alley is pretty homogeneous, and it's probably an easier alley than in the city. So the gentleman who just mentioned he's just starting, good for you. Maybe you can get a model going that others can benefit from. I think, although I don't start early, I just think sharing the information as quickly as possible about what they know it's coming, and I put in there what for any new houses or new owners of houses on the block, which happens every year. Just to kind of preface the letter with what it's all about. City doesn't plow. We all share. One guy pays. It's me. Pay me. So that's pretty. That's about what I do. A little Google map showing the city, the block, and then the two houses that don't pay or haven't paid in the past, they don't have alley access but have the garbage cans. I just put a little X and I reference, those people don't pay, but the rest of us do. 24 pay, 2 get a pass. But as mentioned, I may change that this year just because I've learned more.
What's people's names on there that don't pay?
I don't.
Because
Oh yeah, I don't. I round it up from 27 to 30 for the couple houses that may not pay. I don't even I don't say the usual people who don't pay or anything like that. So it happens. People understand that. So
And
it's
thanks,
an
Michael.
easy block.
Mary Jo?
Well, actually, my tip to you is just, it's really a fun thing to do to get to know your people that are in the alley and the conversations that start. And then, one of the funniest things is how many neighbors you meet at 5 a.m. out there shoveling the snow after the plow's gone through, and you just have to kind of be friendly and, your biggest problem will be finding somebody. I think once you send a letter out or knock on doors, and just say, this is what it is, pay up. I'm not nice about, there's not many people that have an excuse not to pay.
Again, the tenacity and keeping it going.
Well, I don't do anything when they don't pay, but when I see them, did you get my notice?
The reminders.
Yeah.
Jana, what's your advice?
So a lot of good, I'm echoing all the things they said. I think if you're starting new and not everyone knows, I might, in the letter you circulate, explain that the city of St. Paul doesn't plow and for everyone's benefit, you're going to take on, the lead of finding someone to coordinate this. As far as making it easier, so I would put the letter out early, explain all the things, all the details of the contract, but it really, that's kind of why I see it as kind of community civic minded, because you really do have to get to know your neighbors. Even the new people that move in that don't know about it, some neighbor will clue them in very quickly at who you are and what they need to do. So I would just say start early, be forthright in information, be friendly but firm, and be patient. And just, if people are irritated, don't match their irritation, just be factual, answer the information, and move on. And I always knock on doors until I get paid. So tenacity is good. Like, I will literally, you will get a visit from me probably multiple times a week until you pay me. So, and I always get paid. So
And you get your money.
mostly they're
That's
probably
good.
sick of seeing me, but that's fine.
Here she comes.
Yeah.
Well, with that,
Before you close, before you thank our panelists, the most important question is
I got it.
Oh, sorry.
I got it. So again, I just want to say thank you to Jana, thank you to Mary Jo, thank you to Michael. If we can give them a quick round of applause.
Thank you.
And again, a couple things. I'm going to invite Director Sean Kershaw, Public Works Director, to come up and say a quick hello. But as he's walking up here and saying hello to everybody, he was sitting in the back. make sure we got a little parting gift for all the alley captains of the beanies and some ice scrapers. There's a ton of goodies downstairs for the Snow Summit, so make sure you stop at all the exhibitors. But most importantly, this is your opportunity to continue this conversation with one another, share resources, share information, share contact information with each other. One of the things that we are going to do as a city, as Public Works, with this group, and this is why, again, we want more people to sign up to be alley captains so we can get connected with you. But we will be sending out a notice to do a virtual meeting in November. To kind of connect all the alley captains and continue to share, continue to have this conversation. And we are looking for individuals, such as these fine folks up here, who might be interested in kind of doing an alley captain committee to kind of help organize this and help work with the city a little bit, kind of informally with Public Works and other departments throughout the city, to kind of, again, continue this conversation, getting people connected. And again, when we know where you are, when we get questions from neighbors, we can help connect them to you as well. So this is a really important relationship to continue this conversation and continue this partnership, not just for the winter, but really, I think, all year long, with other issues or that you're experiencing in the alley or in the city. We're here to partner with you. So again, make sure that if you haven't signed up, we've got your information. We do ask people, can we share your contact information? Please say yes or no to that, because again, a lot of people are saying, do I have somebody that's a street over? Can we coordinate? Things like that. So that's an important question, because if you don't want your information shared, we will not share your information with people, and it will just be our contact, but please definitely check that very important box. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Director Sean Kershaw.
Thanks, Lisa. I just want to begin with a round of thanks, because I can't do my job without everybody else in Public Works. So to Lisa and Jeanette and Kate, who organized this, huge thanks. We've got Brad and Nick and Daniel in the back. They help me. They make my job possible. Snow is a citywide, like literally every department in the city has a role in this, and I'm honored that Director Beth Commerce and Director Wiese from DSI is here, and Noel from the Mayor's Office, and Commander Ellison and Senior Commander Omari are here from the police department, because this is a partnership, and it's most importantly a partnership with you, that we can't do our work without the work that you do in your neighborhoods. It has all this civic benefit all year long. And it's important that we're going to have a winner again, by the way. I'm willing to bet you that we will have a winner. It's looking like about average temperature, above average snowfall. We can't do our work without you, and we can't do our work better without you. That we're in a moment of real change in how we do our work. Alley captains are going to be critical as we redo our garbage and our solid waste and recycling collection, and as we rethink how we do snow. And so the work you're doing is important now, it's important, in the past, and it's going to be even more important going forward. So grateful to be here. Really grateful for the team, again, Lisa and Jeanette and Kate, that did this work, working with everyone in Public Works to make it happen. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to take a little bit of a break. The next panel is Ask the City panel. We'll have Director Wiese, we'll have Mark, our accessibility coordinator, and I'll be here for Public Works as well. So this is a great opportunity to ask any question that you have about the city, about snow, or just in general. And I know we have a lot of great, all the other departments are represented here down at the Snow Summit. And so definitely stop by booths, ask a lot of questions. We're excited you're here. And again, we will be reaching out to you and look for a meeting notice for November. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.